Hey, what's up everybody? Nick here. It's another Tuesday. Time for another Ask Nick. Every Tuesday I answer one of the questions that you guys DM to me over on Instagram. My Instagram handle is @NickSymmonds. If you want to follow me there, shoot me a question. I love answering them. And today's question, it's about altitude training. I definitely feel that I have the required knowledge on this subject because I used to train at altitude every single year as a professional. I found that it did three things for me. Number one, it helped me lean down. Number two, it helped me get strong, really strong. And number three, it helped me build the red blood cells that I would carry with me through the majority of my professional competitive season. Now, I want to read the question the way it was posed to me on Instagram because it was worded perfectly. This question: hey Nick, would you consider 5,280 feet elevation in Denver, Colorado beneficial training for 4 to 6 weeks? Now, let me tell you why I love this question so much. Not only does he say where he's going to be, Denver, so I know where he's training, and the elevation of the area, 5,280 feet, which is the important part, but he also tells me the duration, 4 to 6 weeks. When you're thinking about altitude training, the two most important things that you're going to look for are altitude, what is the altitude where you're staying, and duration. And I'm going to dig into both of those a little bit more. Now, the altitude's important because if you're at 2,000 feet, above sea level, that's not really going to do much for you. When you look at the amount of O2 present in the atmosphere, it's kind of an exponential curve. So the difference between 1,000 and 2,000 feet isn't much, but the difference between 8,000 and 9,000 feet is actually quite a bit. So for me, when I was training, I loved training in Flagstaff, Arizona. And that's where I did the majority of my altitude training. I would go there every April and spend about 4 to 6 weeks there, and I would train hard for those. And then I'll talk to you a little bit more about what happens when you're doing that, but just so you know, Flagstaff was my favorite. It was 7,000 feet. I had done training stints in San Luis Potosi, Mexico in the winters occasionally. That's about 6,000 or 6,500 feet. And I even went as high as to go to Toluca, Mexico, which is 9,000 feet. But for me, I always thought 7,000 feet, Flagstaff, Arizona, that was the sweet spot. Now, there is some science behind this theory of train low, sleep high, and in Flagstaff you can actually do that. Now, this means that you're going to sleep as high as possible, but you're going to train as low as possible. Flagstaff and the city of Sedona, Arizona, you could sleep at Flagstaff at 7,000, but then for the speed workouts, when we really needed oxygen, really wanted to get going, we could drive down the valley to Sedona, Arizona, about an hour drive, and be 3,000 feet lower. So that's one of the reasons I really love Flagstaff. Now, let's also talk about duration. Some people go on holiday, to Colorado Springs, and they say, I'm going to Colorado Springs for a week. Is that going to benefit me? Not really. You really need to be there for about at least 4 weeks, and preferably, up to 6 weeks. That's where you're going to start to see the best gains, the best, blood response, building those red blood cells. You're really going to see that anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks, and everybody's a little bit different. I know some people that felt really run down after 4 weeks and they wanted to get back to sea level. For me, 5 weeks was the sweet spot. And when I would go to Flagstaff or I would go to Mexico, oftentimes I was trying to be there for exactly 5 weeks. That was the perfect time for me to go to altitude. In that first week you feel really weak. You kind of feel like, oh my gosh, do I really want to be up here for 5 weeks? But as you acclimate, as you start to get used to the thinner air, and the being away from home, and then start to build those red blood cells, it gets easier and easier and easier. But you do have diminishing returns at a certain point. The reason that we do only stay for 4 to 6 weeks is at a certain point, your blood, you've built those red blood cells, you've got the benefits, and now it's time to go back down to sea level and just crush workouts. And I have said this before, when I would come down from altitude, let's say I went to Flagstaff for the month of April, or for 4 to 6 weeks around the springtime, when I came back to Eugene at sea level, I would feel superhuman. I mean, I would just destroy workouts. And that's kind of the point, right? That's why we go to altitude, to train for that amount of time, to build those red blood cells. And as I mentioned at the beginning of this video, I would also lean down. I would usually shed about 5 pounds training up there. And then I would come back down and just crush workouts for 2 to 4 weeks leading into my season opener, or the important part of the competitive season for me in May and June. Now, the way I answered this young man's question, for those of you wondering, I said that he is going to get some benefit for being there. 5,000 feet and higher, I think that's really kind of the minimum where you want to be to start seeing noticeable returns from altitude training. And he was going to be there for 4 to 6 weeks. So I said that time period is just about right. if it was me, I'd want to be a little bit higher, but you are still going to see, good benefits from training there. Also, like that he mentioned that he's in Denver, and there are great running trails in Denver. So another thing to consider if you are looking at going to train at altitude is what's the topography like. You could be at you could be, I'm trying to think of a good city. You could be in Leadville, Colorado, but it's going to be pretty up and down. You'll be at 10,000 feet also. But I think for me, I want to be in that 6,000 to 8,000 foot range. I want to have lots of nice flat trails like we had at Buffalo Park or A1 Road in Flagstaff. And if you can get down lower to do speed work during that, that is the perfect combination. I want to go into detail about the first time I used altitude for my benefit. If you've read my book, this was the summer between my junior and senior year of college. And the first time I really used altitude to my benefit, I actually packed a backpack and moved to central Mexico, moved to Toluca, Mexico, elevation 9,000 feet. And I spent 10 weeks there training with a group of elite Kenyans. I went down there completely unknown, not even top 50 in the United States, and I came back ranked number 2 in the United States and signed a pro contract shortly thereafter. So I'm going to go into detail into the story of how I got the guts to go do that, the transformative summer that was, how it turned me from a no-name runner into a world-famous runner in a matter of weeks. I'm going to go into detail into that story on Thursday. So if you want to see that, hit the subscribe button, and in 2 days I will make that video for you guys. But first, we've got to give away a pair of shoes. Whether you're at sea level or whether you're at altitude, you need a good pair of shoes in order to train your butt off. And I give away a pair of shoes every single Tuesday on this channel. I pick these winners at random, and today it's Matthew Salinas 22. Matthew, thank you so much for following me. Thank you everyone who follows me on Instagram, and thanks for sending me your questions. Not only do I like to respond them and give back to this community, but of course I pick one to read and answer every single Tuesday on this channel, Nick Symmonds 2. See you next week.